Well, hello. My name is Nina Fickett, and I'm a mixed media artist, and I have been experimenting. The first video came out over on the Grafix YouTube channel in February, and that was the first part where I experimented with liquid frisket on some wet media Duralar film. During that video, I created these sheets. So these are the sheets that I made during that video while I was experimenting. I went on to experiment solely with the Incredible White Mask Liquid Frisket. And that video came out in April, where I experimented on watercolor paper with watercolors. In June, I once again experimented with the Incredible White Mask Liquid Frisket, but this time using the clear as well as the white shrink film. And this is what I came up with using layers of those. To see more about these individual projects, you can go to the Grafix YouTube channel. So now I'm going to create a project using all these materials, and my thoughts were to do a journal, but I was inspired from this piece of packaging. This is from some handcrafted soap, and I really like how it comes together like this. So what my thoughts were is using the Grafix Chipboard to create a journal that kind of folds in on itself like this. So inspired by this packaging, that is what I'm going to work on creating. Alright, to start off with, I did some measuring because I'm going to mimic the same kind of pattern here, but I want to make it taller. So this ended up being 8 inches in length, and I decided to go to 4 inches in height. So now I just need to cut out the cutout areas, which are indicated here with the solid line. Now this chipboard is very thick, so for the dashed areas I have indicated on here where my folds are, instead of scoring it, I'm actually going to use my X-Acto blade and just go in very lightly and cut it partially so that we can do a fold there. And that creates our little box. So I have one of the pieces of watercolor paper, and I am going to cut this at 4 inches, and then I'm going to cut it at 3.5 inches, and then this will get the 4 inches will get folded in half, and that will become one page. And I'm going to do that for the watercolor sheets as well as Duralar sheets. So now we could put our signature together, and I thought it would be fun to have the Duralar sandwiched on the white sides of this. Now it's a pretty chunky signature, so now we need to make a template for where our holes are going to fall. So on my template that I've cut out that fits into the area that's going to be our spine, I have marked T for top, and I'm going to do a standard 3-hole pamphlet stitch for this. And so that means I need 3 holes, and I'm going to go up an inch from the bottom, down an inch from the top, and then center the 3rd hole between those 2 holes. So our holes will be here, here, and here. And to punch these, I'm going to use my awl. So I'm going to get it centered, and I'm going to punch where my holes are. And then I'm going to come through it and make them a little bit larger. The next thing I need to do is punch these holes for each of my folio pieces. So I'm going to take my template, fold it in half on the center line so that I can nestle it up against the folded edge of each of the folios, and I'm going to punch each of these. So I've got my large-eyed needle, and with my flax, which is covered in wax. So this is the 3-hole pamphlet stitch. So you leave, if you want the tail on the outside, you start in the center hole going from the outside to the center. If you want the tail being left in this inside of your signature, then you start from the inside and go out. So you come through the center and leave yourself a tail. Then you're going to go to the top hole or bottom, whichever you prefer, and you're going to go through all your folios through that hole, and then you're going to go all the way to the bottom and go through all the holes on each folio and pull that through. And now you are going to come back through the center a second time, and this is where it can get tricky. You do not want to split the thread, and you want to come through on the opposite side of where your tail is. And then we're going to tie it into a square knot. And there we go. We have our signature has been put into the journal. Now we get to decorate. All right, so now it's the fun part, getting on to the covers. And I know I want to leave some of this black showing because this is gorgeous black, and it's just going to make the colors pop. So now I'm going to begin to start to cut out the papers that I'm going to use on the front parts of the cover, the outside of the cover. And I'm going to leave a 1/4 of an inch gap so that we can see that beautiful black of the Grafix black chipboard. Now that these panels have been cut, I'm going to put these in place, and to do that I am going to use the Grafix Double Tack mounting film. This mounting film is incredibly secure and will keep these in place. You can use these on the Duralar film or clear film because it does not show through. They're just fantastic. And I'm just going to peel one side and adhere them to the back, and then cut them down and apply them. And then you just peel the back off and apply it. Now I really like to burnish it down a bit, so I use my bone folder. All right, so we've gotten that done. My thoughts were for the spine edge to use one of the pieces of shrink film that I had created and adhere it to the center where the thread comes out. So I'm going to check for placement here, tie it along one edge using the wax flax, and then use some of the Grafix double tack mounting film on the back to help adhere it to the chipboard. Now we could do more of these shrink film discs on each of the other holes, kind of cover up the holes. So I think I'm going to do that after looking at how it looks. It's fun, bright, and colorful. And for these, I'm just going to simply do the same type of tying that I did with the waxed flax, and then just adhere it like I did the center one with the Grafix double tack mounting film. All right, so now this is what we have so far. And so we're on to this panel. And for this panel, I was thinking of using this piece. When I made these, I did punch holes into each corner so I'd have something to adhere it with. But I don't really want to punch holes into this front cover and have that showing through on the back. So I think I'm going to do with what I did with the 2 extra pieces of shrink film on the spine and do a faux tying using the waxed flax, and then go back to using the Grafix double tack mounting film to adhere this piece to the front cover. So I'm going to use some of the artist double tack and the same method. Just going to peel some away, lay it down on it, and I'm going to get it as close to these edges as possible, so I only have to trim on 2 sides. Give it a good rub using my bone folder. And you cannot even see any adhesive. It looks as though it's been sewn on. So now we need a tie for this. And I was thinking of using this piece of the shrink material, the shrink film, and similarly to this, but leave a tail. Let's get out our cork board and our awl again, and kind of eyeball it where we want this to appear. Kind of want it centered. We want it far enough away from the edge that it's not going to rip through, and I think this is good. So I'm going to mark it with a pencil, and then I'm going to open this up and I'm going to send an awl all the way through. Now I want to make it bigger so that I can get my large eyed needle through that hole. So you want to double check that your large eye needle will go through. And then we want a strand, because I'm going to use this as my tie as well as to adhere this. So I'm going to give it 2-3 lengths just for tying and wrapping. I am going to line this up, and I'm going to go from the back because that's where I'm going to tie it off. And then I'm going to come through this. And I'm going to go back around just like we did on the other one. Make sure it's the correct direction. like so. And then we're going to tie it off on the back. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of this and I'm going to cover this area with the double tack, and I'm going to get those strands under there, and I'm going to leave this on for now until we take care of the inside. So now we have the outside of the cover done, and now we need to do something with the inside. Alright, so for these inside panels, I am going to do something very similarly to what I did for the outside, in that I'm going to use some of these watercolor papers that we created in the prior videos, cut them down, and put them on these panels. Now that I have these pieces cut out, I also pre-cut the pieces of the double tack mounting film. We're going to get those adhered. And just like that, we have ourselves a cute little journal. And it all began with some experimentation with the Incredible White Mask Liquid Frisket. All of these items were made using this frisket. So much fun. Thank you so much for coming along, and I hope that you've enjoyed the making of this little journal. For more inspiration, visit graphicarts.com.